Welcome to the Slumber Trail. Before we begin, take a moment to settle into a comfortable position, letting your body rest easily wherever you are listening. If your screen is still on, you may wish to lower the brightness now, or gently turn it face down, allowing the room to grow a little darker. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. This time is just for rest. Let's take a slow breath together. Breathe in through your nose, slowly, gently, and then breathe out, softly, letting the breath fall away on its own. Once more, a quiet breath in, and an easy breath out. If it feels comfortable, allow your breathing to return to its natural rhythm, unforced and calm. With each breath, feel your shoulders soften, your jaw loosen, and the weight of the day begin to drift away. You don't need to stay awake for this story. If sleep comes early, that's perfectly fine. Simply listen, or let the words fade into the background as we begin tonight's gentle walk. John wakes in Connecticut to the sound of rain. Gentle rain, not heavy, but persistent. The shelter roof drums softly with the steady fall. Around him, other hikers are slow to rise, reluctant to face a wet day. But John has learned not to resist the weather. Rain is just another condition. He packs his gear, protecting what needs to stay dry, accepting that he'll be wet by the end of the day. This is late August now, and the rain is cool rather than cold. Manageable. He starts walking by 7, the rain steady but light. The Connecticut forest is green and dripping, everything saturated with moisture. The trail is muddy in places, slippery on rocks. But after Pennsylvania, nothing feels particularly difficult. Connecticut is short, only about 50 miles of trail. At John's current pace, maybe 3 days. 3 days and he'll be in Massachusetts, his 11th state, with only Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine beyond. The numbers keep getting smaller. The gap between present and finish keeps closing. John tries not to think about it too much, tries to stay present with each day, each mile. But it's hard not to feel the approach of the end, hard not to start counting down. The rain continues through the morning. John walks steadily, his rain jacket on, his pack covered, water running down his legs into his boots. He's soaked within an hour, but warm from the exertion of walking. The rhythm continues. Step, breathe. Step, breathe. Following white blazes through the grey forest. Around midday the rain eases to drizzle. John stops at a shelter, Mount Algo shelter, and finds several other hikers taking refuge, waiting for the weather to clear. He joins them, eating lunch under cover, wringing out his socks, giving his body a break. The conversation is quiet, everyone tired from wet hiking. But there's also an undercurrent of excitement, people calculating days to Katahdin, making plans for the finish, talking about the trail ahead. The whites are coming, someone says. New Hampshire. Everyone says it's the hardest state, harder even than the Smokies. But it's also the last hard thing, someone else responds. After the whites, Maine is tough, but you're so close to done that it doesn't matter. John listens, absorbing information. He's heard stories about the White Mountains for months, exposed ridges, technical scrambles, unpredictable weather. The final test before Maine. But he's not worried. He's walked 1,400 miles. He can handle whatever New Hampshire presents. After an hour, the rain stops completely. The clouds begin to break up, patches of blue appearing. John shoulders his pack and continues north, his clothes still damp but drying in the occasional sunshine. Late afternoon, he crosses into Massachusetts, another state line, another small sign marking the transition. Connecticut complete, Massachusetts beginning. 11 states down, only 3 to go. 3. Just 3 states between him and Katahdin, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Maybe 3 weeks of walking, maybe 4. By mid-September, certainly by the end of September, he could be finished. The thought creates a strange feeling in his chest. Excitement and sadness mixed together. He wants to finish, wants to reach Katahdin, wants to complete what he started. But he also doesn't want it to end, doesn't want to return to normal life, doesn't want to lose this identity as a through hiker. But those thoughts are for future John. Present John is in Massachusetts now, starting his 11th state, still walking north. The trail in southern Massachusetts is beautiful. Rolling forests, small mountains with good views, streams running clear and cold. The terrain is moderate, allowing for a good mileage without excessive difficulty. John's body is at peak strength now, lean and powerful, efficient and resilient. He can walk all day without excessive fatigue, can cover 20 miles and still have energy left. Around day 3 in Massachusetts, John reaches the town of Great Barrington for resupply. It's a charming New England town, larger than most trail towns, with good restaurants and outfitters. He resupplies at a grocery store, eats a massive lunch at a local cafe, then continues north. The trail passes through beautiful sections of Massachusetts. Jug End, a bald mountain with panoramic views. The Housatonic River, which the trail follows for several miles, peaceful and scenic. Mount Everett, offering views across 3 states from its summit. John is alone on the trail more now. The bubble of hikers has spread out significantly. Some pushed ahead with big miles, already in Vermont or even New Hampshire. Others took extra town days or slowed their pace, falling behind. The trail family that was so tight through the southern states has dispersed, each hiker moving at their own speed toward their own finish. But John doesn't feel lonely. He's learned to appreciate solitude, to find peace in solo hiking, and he still sees familiar faces occasionally. Sarah at a shelter one evening, weatherman passing silently on the trail one afternoon, songbirds humming drifting through the forest one morning. Around day 7 in Massachusetts, John reaches Mount Greylock, the highest point in the state at 3,491 feet. The summit has a tall war memorial tower that's visible for miles. John climbs the tower, looking out at the surrounding mountains, at Vermont to the north, at the valleys spread below. The views are spectacular, but what strikes John most is how far north he is. He's in Massachusetts. The southern and mid-Atlantic states are far behind. Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, all those long miles. He's deep into New England now, approaching the final states. That evening, John stays at the shelter near Mount Greylock, Bascom Lodge, an unusual trail stop that's more hostel than shelter, with bunks and a kitchen and even a dining hall. It's crowded with hikers, all of them in the final stretch, all of them feeling the approach of the end. The energy at dinner is festive. Stories are shared, memories of the trail revisited. Someone mentions Georgia, and it brings laughter. How hard those first days seemed, how heavy their packs were, how unprepared they felt. We were babies, Sarah says. She arrived at Greylock an hour before John. We had no idea what we were doing. And now look at us, Eddie adds. walking 20 miles a day like it's nothing, living outside for 3 months. We're basically mountain people now. The conversation continues late into the evening. Plans for after the trail are discussed, though vaguely. Nobody wants to think too hard about what comes after. There's still trail to walk, still mountains to climb, still days to live as through hikers. John lies in his bunk that night, listening to the sounds of the lodge settling into sleep. 3 states to go, maybe 3 weeks, maybe less. The end is approaching fast now, accelerating, the finish line visible, even if still distant. He thinks about Georgia, about Springer Mountain, about the person who started this journey 3 months ago. That person feels like a stranger now, nervous, uncertain, unprepared. This person, the one lying in a bunk on top of Mount Greylock, is different, stronger, quieter, more confident, more himself. The trail has done this. The daily walking, the simple living, the constant presence. The trail has stripped away everything unnecessary and revealed who he actually is underneath, and he likes who he's become. Whoever he was before the trail, this version is better, more authentic, more alive. Sleep comes easily, his body tired from the day's miles, ready to rest and recover for tomorrow. Massachusetts continues, then Vermont, then the whites of New Hampshire, then Maine and the 100-mile wilderness, and finally, impossibly Katadine. The journey continues, the end approaches, and John continues forward, one day at a time, one state at a time, one step at a time, walking steadily toward the finish line that's no longer a distant dream, but an approaching reality. The forest breathes around the lodge. The night is cool, autumn beginning to assert itself. The stars shine overhead, the same stars that have accompanied him from Georgia to here. And John sleeps, 3 states from the end, walking steadily toward completion, toward transformation, toward whatever waits beyond Katahdin. The trail continues. The end approaches, and John continues forward, ready for whatever the final states will bring. John leaves Mount Greylock in the cool morning, descending from Massachusetts' highest point back into forest. The trail is muddy from yesterday's rain, but the day is clear and beautiful. Late August in New England, the best hiking weather of the entire journey. The northern Massachusetts miles pass quickly. The terrain is moderate, the trail well maintained, the forest beautiful in its late summer fullness. John's pace is strong, his body adapted completely to the daily walking. 20 miles no longer feels difficult, it's just what he does. Walk 20 miles, set up shelter, eat, sleep, repeat. Around midday on his second day after Greylock, John reaches the Vermont border. A simple sign marks the crossing, Vermont, Massachusetts state line. He stops, drops his pack, takes the photo. 12 states complete. Only 2 remain, Vermont and New Hampshire in this final trio, with Maine waiting beyond. 2 states. The number is almost frightening in its smallness. After walking through 14 states, only 2 remain. The end is suddenly very close, very real. Vermont greets him with immediate climbing. The trail ascends sharply from the border, gaining elevation toward Glastonbury Mountain. John's legs pump steadily. His breathing deepens but stays controlled. After 3 months of daily climbing, his body handles these ascents almost effortlessly. The Vermont forest is different from the states before. The trees feel older somehow, the forest more primal. The Green Mountains live up to their name. Everything is intensely green, lush with the late summer growth. The trail is well maintained, but feels wilder, more remote. John falls into the peaceful rhythm of solo hiking. Hours pass with no other hikers visible ahead or behind. Just him and the forest and the white blazes leading north. His mind is quiet, content, fully present to each moment. Around day 3 in Vermont, John reaches a shelter, Goddard Shelter, and finds Sarah already there, cooking an early dinner. "I've been wondering when you'd show up," she says. "How's Vermont treating you?" "It's beautiful," John says, dropping his pack. "Quiet. I haven't seen another hiker in 2 days." Same. Everyone's spread out now, racing to the finish in their own way. They cook dinner together, eating while watching the sunset through the trees. The conversation is comfortable, easy, full of the understanding that comes from shared experience. "Are you scared?" Sarah asks. "Of finishing, I mean." John considers. "A little. This has become my life. I don't know what comes after." "Same. I keep thinking about going back to teaching, back to normal life, and it feels impossible. Like I've changed too much to go back to who I was." "Maybe we don't go back," John says. "Maybe we become something new. Use what the trail taught us to build different lives." Sarah nods slowly. "I like that idea." They sit in comfortable silence as darkness falls. The forest grows cool, autumn asserting itself in the evening temperatures. Summer is ending, the seasons turning, the year moving toward its close. And with it, their journeys moving toward completion. The next morning, John continues north alone, Sarah planning a shorter day. The Vermont Trail is consistently beautiful. Streams, mountain views, dense forests. The miles pass steadily. 20 miles one day, 19 the next, 18 after that. Around day 6 in Vermont, John reaches Killington Peak, Vermont's second highest mountain. The trail climbs steeply to the summit, where a gondola brings tourists up from the ski resort below. The juxtaposition is jarring. John in his trail-worn clothes, tourists in clean vacation outfits, all standing on the same summit. He doesn't stay long, just long enough to take in the view and grab a soda from the summit restaurant. The mountains stretch away in all directions, ridge after ridge of the Green Mountains. And to the north, just barely visible through the haze, the taller peaks of New Hampshire's White Mountains. The Whites, the final major challenge, the last hard section before Maine. They're close now, maybe a week away, maybe less. Restless now, eager to make progress, eager to keep moving toward the end. His daily mileage creeps up, 22 miles one day, 23 the next. His body can handle it, craves the motion, wants to keep walking. Around day 9 in Vermont, John reaches the town of Killington for resupply. It's a small ski town, quiet in the off-season, but with good restaurants and outfitters. He resupplies quickly, eats a massive lunch, then pushes back out to the trail. No zeros now, no Neros, just steady forward motion. The Northern Vermont Trail brings more beautiful hiking. Gulf Hagas, a spectacular gorge with waterfalls. The Long Trail intersection where Vermont's Long Trail splits from the AT heading north to the Canadian border while the AT turns east toward New Hampshire. John reaches the Vermont-New Hampshire border on a cool September morning. The sign stands in a forest that's just beginning to show hints of autumn color. A touch of yellow here, a bit of red there. Fall is coming. The seasons are turning. He stands at the border looking at the sign. New Hampshire, Vermont state line. 13 states complete, only one remains before Maine. Only New Hampshire stands between him and the final state, between him and Katahdin. One state. Just one more state. Then Maine. Then the 100-mile wilderness. Then Katahdin. Then the end of this long, transformative journey. The thought fills him with emotions he can barely name. Excitement and sadness and pride and loss all mixed together. He's almost done. He's almost finished walking to Maine. The impossible goal is almost achieved. But it's not achieved yet. New Hampshire waits. The White Mountains wait. The hardest climbing of the entire trail, save for last. The final test before Maine. John takes a deep breath, shoulders his pack, and crosses into New Hampshire. The trail continues. The end approaches. One more state. One more challenge. One more section to walk before reaching Maine. The forest is quiet around him. The morning is cool and clear. The white blazes lead north as they always have, as they always will until they reach Katahdin's summit, and John follows them, one step at a time, walking steadily toward the end, toward completion, toward whatever waits beyond this long journey through the mountains. The trail continues. The end is close. And John continues forward, ready for the final challenges, ready to finish what he started all those months ago in Georgia. One more state, one more push, one more section of trail, and then Maine, and then Katahdin, and then the end. The journey continues. And John continues with it, almost done now, so close to the finish that he can almost taste it, one day at a time, one state at a time, one step at a time, almost there, almost finished, almost home. John enters New Hampshire with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The White Mountains have a legendary reputation among thru hikers. The hardest, most technical, most exposed section of the entire Appalachian Trail. More difficult than the Smokies, more dangerous than anything before. The final major test before Maine. The first day in New Hampshire is deceptively easy. The trail follows moderate terrain through beautiful forest, giving no hint of what's coming. John makes good miles, enjoying the pleasant walking, savoring these last easy miles before the difficulty begins. Around day 2 in New Hampshire, the character changes. The trail begins to steepen. The rocks return, but these aren't Pennsylvania rocks. These are larger, more technical, requiring hands as well as feet. The forest grows more sparse, the trees shorter, indicating higher elevation. And then John reaches his first real White Mountain challenge, the climb up Mount Musilaoke. The trail ascends steeply, gaining over 3,000 feet in just a few miles. John climbs steadily, his breathing heavy, his legs burning. This is harder than anything since the Smokies, maybe harder than anything yet. But eventually he reaches the summit, and the view is breathtaking. The mountain rises above tree line, offering 360-degree views of the White Mountains stretching away in all directions. Ridge after ridge of high peaks, rocky and exposed, beautiful and intimidating. This is what he has to walk through, all of those peaks, all of that exposed trail. The next week or two will be the hardest of the entire journey. The descent from Muusilauke is even harder than the climb. Steep rock faces requiring careful navigation, places where the trail becomes a scramble down near vertical stone. John takes his time, testing each handhold, placing each foot carefully. A fall here would be serious, possibly trip-ending. By the time he reaches the bottom, his legs are shaking, his hands scraped, his nerves frayed. And this is just the first mountain. There are at least a dozen more ahead, each one challenging in its own way. That evening, John reaches Kinsman Pond Shelter, tucked below tree line, but with views of the peaks ahead. Several other hikers are there, all of them looking tired, all of them talking about the whites. This is brutal, someone says. I thought Pennsylvania was hard, but this is on another level. At least it's beautiful, Sarah says. She arrived an hour before John, having pushed big miles to stay ahead. Pennsylvania rocks were just tedious. This is hard but spectacular. John agrees. The difficulty feels different here. More engaged, more present, more requiring of attention and skill. It's challenging but not tedious, dangerous but beautiful. The kind of hiking that demands everything you have but rewards it with incredible experiences. The next morning, John tackles the Kinsman Ridge, a high exposed traverse across rocky peaks with spectacular views. The trail follows the ridgeline for miles, mostly above tree line, the wind constant and strong. John walks carefully, aware of the exposure, aware that a wrong step could mean a serious fall. But it's also exhilarating. The views are endless. Mountains in every direction, valleys far below, the sky huge overhead. This is what he came for. This is what the trail has been leading toward. The wild, exposed, beautiful challenge of the White Mountains. The days settle into a new rhythm. Wake, climb a mountain, descend a mountain, climb another mountain, reach shelter exhausted, sleep, repeat. The mileage drops to 12 or 14 miles a day. Not because John is slow, but because the terrain is so technical that distance accumulates slowly. Around day 5 in the Whites, John reaches Franconia Ridge, considered one of the most beautiful sections of the entire Appalachian Trail. The trail follows an exposed ridge line above tree line for several miles, offering unobstructed views in all directions. John walks the ridge in perfect weather, clear skies, moderate temperatures, just enough wind to be refreshing. The trail traverses Mount Lafayette and Mount Lincoln, both over 5,000 feet, both spectacular. Other hikers are on the ridge, day hikers and through hikers alike. Everyone moving slowly, everyone stopping frequently to take in the views. This is it, John thinks. This is the experience that defines the trail. Walking above tree line on a perfect September day, surrounded by mountains, feeling strong and capable and alive. This is why people hike. For moments like this. The descent from Franconia Ridge leads to the AMC hut system, a series of backcountry lodges operated by the Appalachian Mountain Club, offering meals and bunk room sleep-in for a price. Through hikers can sometimes work for stay, doing chores in exchange for leftovers from the guests' meals and a spot on the floor. John reaches Green Leaf Hut around dinner time. The crew offers him work for stay, cleaning dishes, sweeping floors, simple tasks. In exchange, he gets a massive dinner of leftovers and a spot in the basement to sleep. It's warm and dry, a luxury after nights in shelters or tents. Other through hikers are there doing the same work. They eat together, trading stories of the whites so far, preparing mentally for the challenges ahead. Mount Washington is coming, someone says. Highest peak in the Northeast. The weather station there has recorded the highest wind speed ever measured on Earth. But after Washington, it gets easier, someone else adds. The northern whites are still hard, but not as extreme. And then it's just Maine. Maine, the final state. John can almost see it now, can almost imagine crossing into Maine, can almost picture the final 100 miles through the wilderness to Katahdin. But first the whites. First these mountains that have been waiting for him, testing him, showing him what he's capable of. The next day brings the Presidential Range, a series of high peaks named after US presidents, culminating in Mount Washington. John climbs Mount Madison and Mount Adams, both over 5,000 feet, both technical and exposed. The scrambles are challenging, requiring full attention, but his body is strong enough now, his skills developed enough, that he handles them with confidence. And then, around day 8 in the whites, John reaches Mount Washington. At 6,288 feet, it's the highest peak in the northeastern United States. The trail climbs steeply to the summit, the last mile entirely above tree line, exposed to wind and weather. John reaches the top on a cool, clear afternoon. The summit is developed. A visitor center, a weather observatory, a parking lot where tourists arrive by car or cog railway. The contrast is jarring, but John doesn't care. He's on top of Mount Washington. He climbed here from Georgia, walked over 1,500 miles to reach this summit. He takes his summit photo, buys a celebratory soda from the visitor center, then continues. The trail descends from Washington, dropping back into forest, continuing north toward the remaining peaks. The whites continue for several more days, the wildcats with their steep ladder-assisted climbs. The Carters, a long ridge walk above tree line, each mountain challenging in its own way, each one beautiful, each one another step toward Maine. Around day 12 in New Hampshire, the terrain finally begins to moderate. The extreme peaks are behind him. The trail remains challenging but less extreme, more typical of the AT. The whites are ending. John reaches the last major peak in New Hampshire, Mount Success, on a cool September morning. From the summit, he can see north into Maine. The final state, visible now, tangible, real. Just a few more days of New Hampshire, and he'll cross into Maine. Just one more state to walk, 100 miles through the wilderness. Then Katahdin, then the end. The thought creates a flutter in his chest. He's so close now, so close to finishing. The journey that started in April is approaching its end in September. 5 months of walking, of living outside, of following white blazes north, almost complete. That evening, John reaches Gentian Pond Shelter, one of the last shelters in New Hampshire. Several other hikers are there, all of them feeling the approach of Maine, all of them excited and nervous about the final push. As darkness falls and conversations quiet, John lies in his sleeping bag thinking about the whites. They were everything he heard they would be. Difficult, technical, exposed, beautiful, challenging. But he did it. He walked through them. His body was strong enough, his skills adequate, his determination sufficient. One more day, maybe 2, then Maine, then the 100-mile wilderness, then Katahdin, then the end of this long transformative journey through the mountains. The forest breathes around the shelter. The night is cold now, autumn fully here, the seasons turning toward a winter. The stars shine brilliant overhead. And John sleeps, almost done with the whites, almost in Maine, almost at the end of this long journey. The trail continues. The finish line approaches, and John continues forward, ready for the final state, ready for Katahdin, ready for whatever comes after. One more state, one more push, then the end, then completion, then transformation realized. John wakes on his last morning in New Hampshire. The realization brings a strange mix of emotions. Relief that the whites are behind him, excitement that Maine is just ahead, sadness that the journey is almost over. The morning is cold, properly cold. September in the mountains, and frost covers the ground around the shelter. John's breath makes clouds in the air as he packs his gear. Autumn has arrived fully now, the leaves beginning to turn, the air carrying that crisp quality that speaks of summer's end. He starts walking by 7, eager to reach Maine. The trail is moderate today, no extreme peaks, just steady walking through New Hampshire forest. The terrain is beautiful, but John barely notices. His mind is focused ahead, on the state line, on crossing into the final state. Around mid-morning, the forest begins to show signs of the approaching border. More signs, more markers. Trail angels leaving notes of encouragement for hikers approaching Maine. Almost there, one note says, the final state awaits. And then, around noon, John sees it through the trees ahead. The Maine border, a large wooden sign marking the state line. Maine, New Hampshire state line. People have left rocks arranged to spell Maine. Prayer flags flutter in the breeze. Trail registers overflow with entries from hikers celebrating this milestone. John stops 20 feet from the sign, just looking at it. Maine, the final state. 14 states walked, and now the 14th. Maine. The last 100 miles. The final push to Katahdin. Emotions well up, unexpected and powerful. Pride, gratitude, disbelief. He's walked from Georgia to Maine. His body has carried him over 1,500 miles through the mountains. He's actually going to finish. Barring disaster, he's going to reach Katahdin. Other hikers are at the border. Sarah is there, having arrived that morning, waiting for John. Fast Eddie is there. Turbo, still pushing his massive miles. A few other faces that have become familiar over the months. They take a group photo, the main arrivals, all of them grinning despite their exhaustion, despite their worn-out gear and trail-weathered faces. All of them about to enter the final state. John takes his solo photo with the sign, a lean, bearded hiker with strong legs and tired eyes. He looks completely different from the person who started at Springer Mountain 5 months ago. That person was soft, uncertain, carrying too much weight and too many doubts. This person is hardened, confident, stripped down to essentials. How does it feel? Sarah asks. Surreal, John says. I can't believe we're actually here, in Maine, about to finish. 100-mile wilderness ahead, Eddie says. 10 days of no towns, no resupply, just trail, the final stretch. They cross into Maine together, the small group walking as one, everyone feeling the significance of this moment. Maine greets them with immediate climbing. Moody Mountain, the first peak requiring a steep ascent right from the border. but after the whites, it feels manageable. The main forest is different from the states before, wilder somehow, more remote. The trees are different, more evergreens, the forest darker and denser. The trail is rougher, less maintained, more primitive. This is a wilderness section, the most remote 100 miles of the entire trail. That evening, John reaches Carlo Cole Shelter, the first shelter in Maine. It's a simple structure in deep forest, far from any road or town. The isolation is profound, thrilling. This is the final wilderness push, no escape, no easy way out. Just him and the trail and the final 100 miles to Katahdin. More hikers arrive throughout the evening. The shelter fills with people beginning the 100-mile wilderness, all of them carrying extra food for the 10-day push. All of them excited and nervous about this final section. The conversation is different tonight, quieter, more reflective. Everyone knows this is the end, that in 10 days or less they'll be standing on Katahdin, that this experience that has defined their lives for months is almost over. What's the first thing you'll do after Katahdin? Someone asks. Answers vary, but they're more thoughtful now, less joking. Find a hotel and sleep for 3 days. Call family. Eat real food until it hurts. Start planning the next adventure. What about you, John? John thinks about it. I don't know. I can't picture after yet. There's still 100 miles to walk. That's all I can see. People nod, understanding. The finish is close, but not here yet. There's still trail ahead, still miles to walk, still challenges to face. The 100-mile wilderness isn't a formality. It's real hiking through real wilderness, with stream crossings and mountain climbs, and the constant possibility of difficulty. That night, John lies in his sleeping bag, unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. His mind is too active, too full of thoughts and emotions. He's in Maine. He's in the final state. In 10 days, maybe less, he'll be on top of Katahdin. The journey will be complete. He thinks about the past 5 months. Georgia in spring, everything green and new and full of promise. North Carolina and the Smokies. Testing his resolve. Tennessee's long miles. Virginia's endless green tunnel. Pennsylvania's rocks. The mid-Atlantic rush. The beauty of New England. The challenge of the whites. So many miles, so many mountains, so many days of walking, of carrying everything he needs, of following white blazes north. It's been hard and beautiful and transformative. Exactly what he needed, even though he didn't know he needed it when he started. The trail has changed him, not just his body, though that transformation is obvious, but his mind, his spirit, his sense of who he is. The trail has stripped away everything unnecessary and shown him his essential self. And that self is stronger, quieter, more at peace than the person who lived in Charlotte, who worked at a desk, who dreamed of something different. Sleep finally comes in the deep hours of the night. And when John wakes to his first full day in Maine, he feels ready, ready for the wilderness, ready for the final push, ready to finish what he started. The morning is cold and clear, frost on the ground, his breath visible, but the sun is rising and it will warm as the day progresses. John packs his heavy pack, 10 days of food plus his regular gear, and starts walking north, always north. One more time, one more state, one more 100 miles. The main trail is rough and beautiful, root-covered, rock-strewn, requiring constant attention. But John's skills are sharp now, his body adapted. He navigates the terrain with confidence, making good time despite the difficulty. Around midday, he passes a sign, Katahdin, 100 miles, 100 miles to the finish. The number is small, achievable, real. He's walked over 1,500 miles to reach this sign. Only 100 remain. He stops at the sign, reads it again. 100 miles. 10 days of walking, maybe 9 if he pushes, maybe 11 if he takes it slow, but finite, countable. Almost done. John shoulders his pack and continues north into the wilderness, toward Katahdin, toward the end of this long journey through the mountains. The trail continues, the end approaches, and John walks forward, one step at a time, through the final wilderness, toward the final mountain, toward completion and transformation, and whatever waits beyond. 100 miles to go, just 100 more miles. Then Katahdin, then the end, then the beginning of whatever comes after. The forest closes in around him. The trail leads north. The white blazes continue, as they have for 1,500 miles, leading him always toward Maine, toward Katahdin, toward home. The 100-mile wilderness lives up to its name. Remote, rugged, beautiful, and completely isolated from civilization. No roads cross the trail. No towns are nearby. Just forest, and mountains and streams, and the narrow path leading north toward Katahdin. John walks through days that blur together in the best way. Wake in cold morning air, pack gear, walk through wilderness, filter water from pristine streams, climb mountains with no names on the summit, reach shelter at evening, sleep under stars growing brighter as autumn deepens. The routine is familiar, comforting, exactly what these final miles require. The terrain is challenging but not extreme. Lots of roots and rocks. Stream crossings requiring careful balance, climbs that are steep but manageable. After the whites, everything feels doable. John's body is at peak condition, his skills sharp, his confidence high. Around day 3 in the wilderness, John crosses the Kennebec River. It's the only major river ford on the AT where the trail maintains a ferry service. A canoe operated by volunteers, shuttling hikers across the wide, fast-flowing river. John waits his turn, then climbs into the canoe, watching the forest slide by as he's paddled across. On the far side, he thanks the volunteer, an older man who's been ferrying hikers for years, and continues north. The trail immediately climbs from the river, ascending through forest that's beginning to show serious fall color. The maples are turning brilliant red and orange, the birches golden yellow. The forest is transforming, preparing for winter. The days grow shorter. The sun sets earlier each evening, rises later each morning. John is hiking in darkness sometimes, using his headlamp for the last miles to shelter, the first miles from camp. Autumn is deepening, the season turning, time running out before winter closes the trail, but he has enough time, just barely, but enough. 10 days through the wilderness, then Katahdin. He'll finish in late September just as the season allows. Perfect timing, as if the trail has been waiting for him all along. Around day 5 in the wilderness, John reaches the Chairback Mountains, a series of peaks offering spectacular views north toward Katahdin. And there it is, for the first time visible in the distance. A massive mountain, distinct and singular, standing above the surrounding landscape. Katahdin. The end of the trail, the goal he's been walking toward for 5 months and over 1,500 miles. John stops walking, just staring at the distant peak. It's real, it's there. In 5 more days, maybe 6, he'll be standing on top of it. The journey will be complete. The sight fills him with emotions so complex he can't untangle them. Joy and sadness, excitement and loss, pride and grief all mixed together. He wants to reach Katahdin more than anything, but he also never wants this journey to end. Never wants to stop being a through hiker, never wants to leave this life he's built in the wilderness. But the trail is finite, it ends at Katahdin, and he's almost there. That evening, John reaches Long Pond Stream lean-to. Several other hikers are there, all of them in the final push, all of them having seen Katahdin from the chairbacks. The energy is strange, excited but melancholy. Everyone wants to finish, but nobody wants it to be over. The conversation circles around this paradox, never quite resolving it. 5 more days, Sarah says. She's been hiking near John for the past week, their paces matching through the wilderness. 5 more days and we're done. Done, Eddie echoes. What does that even mean? I don't remember how to not hike. Someone laughs, but it's tinged with sadness. This is all they've known for months. Wake up, walk north, set up camp, sleep. The simplicity has become their entire life. What comes after feels impossible to imagine. The next days pass too quickly. John tries to slow down, to savor each mile, but time moves at its own pace regardless of his desires. The wilderness continues. Beautiful, remote, challenging. He crosses streams, climbs mountains, follows white blazes through forest that grows more brilliant with full color each day. Around day 8 in the wilderness, John reaches Rainbow Ledges, the last major viewpoint before Katahdin. And there it is again, much closer now, dominating the northern horizon. Maybe 30 miles away, maybe less, 2 more days of walking and he'll be at the base. Then the climb, then the summit, then the end. That night at Rainbow Stream Lean-To, the atmosphere is subdued. Everyone knows these are the last nights in the woods, the last nights as through hikers actively on their through hike. Tomorrow they'll reach Abel Bridge, the official end of the 100-mile wilderness. The next day, Katahdin Stream campground at the base of the mountain, then the summit day. Are you ready? Sarah asked John as they sit outside the shelter, watching the last light fade from the sky. I don't know, John says honestly. I want to finish, but I'm not ready for this to be over. Same. This has been everything, the best and hardest thing I've ever done. And it's ending. They sit in silence, watching stars appear. The night is cold, properly cold. Winter is coming. The trail season is ending. Everything is ending. But not yet, not quite yet. There's still tomorrow, still the final approach to Katahdin, still the climb ahead. The journey isn't over until you touch the sign on Katahdin's summit. Until then, John is still a through hiker, still walking, still following white blazes north. Sleep comes slowly that night. John lies in his sleeping bag, looking at the shelter ceiling, thinking about Katahdin, about the climb, about standing on the summit, about what comes after. The trail has given him so much. Strength, peace, clarity, purpose. It's shown him who he is when everything unnecessary is stripped away. It's proven that he's capable of hard things, of impossible things, of walking from Georgia to Maine. What will he do with that knowledge? Who will he be without the trail to define him? Those are questions for future John. Present John is still in the woods, still 2 days from Katahdin, still a through hiker walking north. The morning comes cold and clear. John packs his gear for one of the last times. His pack is light now, most of his food eaten, only one more day's worth remaining. Light enough that he barely feels it. He walks out of the shelter into the cold morning, following the trail north toward a bowl bridge, toward Katahdin Stream campground, toward the base of the final mountain. The end is so close now. One more day through the wilderness, one more night in the woods, then the summit day, then completion. The forest is brilliant with fall color, red and orange and yellow blazing against the deep green of the evergreens. The air is crisp and clean. The trail leads north through perfect wilderness, through the final miles, toward the mountain that has been waiting all along. John walks steadily, savoring each step, each moment, each final mile through the wilderness. The journey continues. The end approaches, and he walks forward, ready and not ready, excited and sad, walking toward completion and transformation and the end of this long, beautiful journey through the mountains. One more day, one more night, then Katahdin, then the finish, then whatever comes after. The trail continues, and John continues with it. Almost done now, so close to the end that he can see it, can feel it, can almost touch it. Almost there, almost finished, almost home. Hashtag the long trails, Appalachian Trail. John reaches Able Bridge on a cool September afternoon. The bridge marks the end of the 100-mile wilderness, the last outpost before Katahdin. A small store sits near the bridge, and John stops to buy a celebratory soda, to sit for a moment before the final push. Other hikers are there, all of them on the verge of finishing. The energy is electric and melancholy at once. Everyone excited, everyone sad. The end is tomorrow. Tomorrow they climb Katahdin. Tomorrow the journey ends. John camps at a bold bridge that night, pitching his tent for one of the last times. The campground is full of through hikers, all of them preparing for their summit day, all of them unable to quite believe they're actually here. Sarah is there. Fast Eddie, Turbo, Songbird, Weatherman, making one of his rare appearances. So many familiar faces, the trail family coming together for the end. They gather around a fire that evening, the group larger than usual, everyone drawn together by the significance of tomorrow. Stories are shared and memories revisited. Someone mentions Georgia, and it brings laughter and disbelief. Georgia feels like years ago, like a different lifetime. They were different people in Georgia. What did the trail teach you? Someone asks. Answers vary. That hard things are possible, that you're stronger than you think, that simplicity brings peace, that the present moment is all that really exists, that walking is enough, that you don't need much to be happy, that the journey matters more than the destination, even though the destination still matters. When the question reaches John, he thinks for a long time before answering. It taught me who I am, he says finally. Not who I thought I was, or who I was supposed to be, but who I actually am when everything else is stripped away. And I like that person more than the one I was before. People nod, understanding. The trail has done this for all of them, shown them their essential selves, proven their capabilities, transformed them in ways they're still discovering. The fire dies down. People drift to their tents. Tomorrow is the big day, and everyone wants to be rested. John lies in his tent, unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. Tomorrow, tomorrow he climbs Katahdin. Tomorrow he finishes. The night passes slowly. John dozes, but never deeply sleeps, his mind too active. And when the first light appears in the eastern sky, he gives up on sleep and emerges from his tent. Other hikers are already stirring. Everyone is awake early, eager to start, eager to climb, eager to finish. John packs his tent for the last time, straps it to his pack, eats a quick breakfast, organizes his gear. By 7, a small group is ready to leave for Katahdin Stream Campground, the trailhead for the summit climb. They walk together, the final approach, the last few miles of trail before the mountain itself. Katahdin looms ahead, massive and imposing. The morning sun catches the bare rock near the summit, making it glow golden. It's a beautiful mountain, worthy of being the end point of this long journey. They reach Katahdin Stream campground around 9. This is it, the base of the mountain, the beginning of the final climb. John drops his pack, taking only essentials: water, snacks, his camera, rain gear just in case. His pack stays here, he won't need it for the summit. The group starts climbing together around 9:30. Sarah, Eddie, John, and several others. The trail is immediately steep, climbing through forest, gaining elevation quickly. John's legs pump steadily, his breathing deep but controlled. After 1,500 miles, his body knows how to climb. The trail ascends for miles, relentlessly upward. They pass waterfalls, cross streams, climb through changing forest zones, and then around 3,500 feet, the trees begin to thin. The trail breaks out above tree line onto bare rock. The exposure is immediate and intense. The trail climbs up steep rock faces, requiring hands and feet, scrambling up the mountain's flanks. Below, the forest spreads away in brilliant fall colors. Above, the summit beckons. John climbs steadily, carefully, his focus complete. This is technical climbing, challenging, requiring attention. But his skills are sharp, his body strong. He moves with confidence, with capability developed over 1,500 miles of walking. Around noon, the angle begins to ease. The summit is close. John can see the cairn at the top, can see the famous Katahdin sign. Just a few more scrambles, a few more feet of elevation. Almost there. And then suddenly, he is there, standing on the summit of Katahdin, the highest peak in Maine, the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. The end. The view is spectacular. Mountains and forests and lakes stretching away in all directions. But John barely notices. He's looking at the sign, the wooden sign that marks the end. Katahdin, northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. He did it. He walked from Georgia to Maine, from Springer Mountain to here, over 1,500 miles, 5 months, 14 states, countless mountains. He actually did it. Emotions overwhelm him. John sits down on the rock, tears streaming down his face, unable to speak. Pride and relief and sadness and joy all mixed together, too much to contain. Other hikers are crying too. Everyone is hugging, taking photos, laughing and crying at once. Sarah hugs him tight. "We did it. We actually did it. We did," John says, his voice breaking. They take the obligatory summit photos. John at the sign, Sarah at the sign, the whole group together. Everyone grinning despite their tears, despite their exhaustion, despite the complex emotions of finishing something that has defined their lives for months. John sits on the summit for over an hour, just being present to this moment. This is it, the end of the trail, the completion of the journey. He's a through hiker now in the past tense. He was a through hiker. He walked the Appalachian Trail. It's done. But what now? Who is he without the trail? Without the daily purpose of walking north? Without the identity of through hiker? Those questions are too big for right now. Right now, there's just this. The summit of Ka'atahadin, the end of the trail, the completion of an impossible dream. Eventually, reluctantly, they begin the descent. The mountain is steep going down, requiring careful navigation. John takes his time, not wanting to fall now, not wanting to injure himself after coming so far. They reach the base by evening, retrieve their packs from the campground. John hoists his pack onto his shoulders for the last time. They walk the 3 miles back to Abel Bridge, back to civilization, back to the world beyond the trail. That night, the group camps at Abel Bridge again. Everyone too exhausted to do anything else. They build a fire, share the last of their trail food, sit together in comfortable silence. "What are you doing tomorrow?" Eddie asks. Answers vary: heading home, finding a hotel for a few days, starting the drive back to normal life. Everyone transitioning from through hiker to former through hiker, from trail life to whatever comes after. John doesn't have an answer. He hasn't thought beyond Katadin. There's just this moment, this evening, this last night with his trail family. As the fire dies and people drift to their tents, John sits alone for a while, looking north toward Katahdin even though he can't see it in the darkness. He climbed that mountain today. He finished the Appalachian Trail. The journey that started in April ended in September. 5 months of walking, and now it's done. He feels different, not dramatically, but fundamentally. The person sitting here is not the same person who started at Springer Mountain. That person was searching for something he couldn't name. This person has found it, or at least found parts of it. Strength, peace, capability, purpose. A sense of self that isn't defined by job or possessions or expectations, but by the simple act of moving through the world under his own power. The trail has given him that, and he'll carry it forward into whatever comes next. Sleep comes finally, deep and dreamless. And when John wakes for his first morning as a former through hiker, the sun is already up, the day well begun. Other hikers are packing up, heading out, beginning their returns to normal life. John packs his gear slowly, savoring each motion. His tent, his sleeping bag, his stove and food bag and water bottles. Everything fits in his pack one last time. He shoulders it, feeling the familiar weight, the familiar balance. He walks to the trail register at Abel Bridge and signs it one final time. John Nobo, Springer to Katahdin, April 10th to September 25th, 2,190 miles. Thank you for everything. And then he walks away from the trail toward the road, toward the shuttle that will take him to town, toward whatever life waits beyond this long journey through the mountains. The Appalachian Trail continues behind him, stretching south toward Georgia, waiting for next year's hikers, eternal and patient. But for John, it's complete. He walked it, from end to end, every mile, every mountain, every challenge. He's a through hiker now, not walking anymore, but having walked. The journey complete, the transformation realized. And whatever comes next, he carries the trail with him, the lessons learned, the strength gained, the peace discovered. The journey ends, but the transformation continues, and John walks forward into his life, changed and grateful, forever marked by the 1,500 miles he walked through the mountains, forever carrying the trail within him.